Greeting and Nadi viewers. I am very happy to have today Giannis Koutis. I'm very certain that we will have a very special story and experience to share. Giannis, really happy to have you today.
Likewise, it's a great pleasure to talk to you, Fadil, and to be part of this series of interesting conversations. I would say, I wouldn't say interview because it's so nice to share with a dialogue our the same appreciation and love we have about music in general.
Wonderful. So we can start with the beginnings. So tell us
Yes,
about the beginnings, the family, the community, the first
yes,
encounters of music.
sure. Uh, I was born in 1985 in Cyprus, in Nicosia, Cyprus, and I can say that I didn't have any influences or inspiration, let's say, musical wise, from either my family or the near relatives, the close relatives of mine, first degree relative. So until today, I haven't managed to find any either ancestors like I could find like they were somehow involved not only in music but generally in the arts. So I hope I'm not destroying the family tree somehow with my choices.
And you don't need to find a justification, anyways.
No, no, I guess not.
Yeah.
But although I didn't have any examples, let's say, from the family, on the contrary, my family, my father and my mother and my brother and sister, they were really supportive from the very first steps of mine until today. So part of whatever I managed to experience through music, I owe them, I owe it to them as well, besides my own efforts, uh, because there are so many examples of fellow musicians that they were forced to follow at least academically something else and then parallel to do something with music. In my occasion, I was fortunate enough to have fully to be fully supported by my family in order to follow my calling. Let's say
Yeah.
if it, I can describe it as a calling. So I was born in Cyprus, but soon enough we moved with my family in Athens. So compared to Cyprus, I guess I had the chance to be exposed in much more, many more environments. Let's say either this is music or to travel more or to see other things that maybe it wouldn't be possible to experience in Cyprus back then. So part of the music tradition, let's say, of the music character of Greece is the rebetiko music. I was from the very young age. I was fascinated. I was always it was capturing my attention. Anything that had to do with the East, either it was music I heard on the TV or on the radio, or colors or whatever comes from the East always was I mean Islamic art. I didn't know it was called Islamic art back then, or calligraphy, or all these very interesting uh, artistic elements of the East were always grabbing my attention. So being raised in Athens, I unavoidably got exposed to the rebetiko music as well. So from the very young age, like around 8, 9 years old, I had the great wish and the intense wish, I would say, to have an instrument to start playing around without having in mind that I would like to start lessons or being like in a band or what. I was so young to think all these things. So my father bought me a small baglama, the Greek type stringed instrument, the small bouzouki, we could say, the very small one.
Yeah.
So back then, internet wasn't in the scene. So whatever source I could have on my hands, like I had like a small tape player, and I had some tapes. Somehow I had some tapes in the house, and I started studying uh, slowly by ear all the melodies and trying to understand uh, the scales and the notes and the style and all these things. So following that, I got myself into wanted to try the bigger size instruments of this family. Like I got the Zuras, which is like the next size after Baglama, and eventually the Bouzouki, the six-string Bouzouki, which is the big version of that family. And the very interesting thing about my experience with the instruments was that it came so naturally that it was part uh, of my playing activities. You know, I would play basketball and then I would just grab the instrument and play some music with it. So it was not something I couldn't understand or realize back then that it's something uh, very great or it has a deeper uh, essence, like emotional wise or philosophical wise. It was just a game for me. So I realized, I mean, my father realized back then that I had like this natural and easygoing ability to play instruments without any uh, lessons, I would say. Uh, so I'm saying this because until today I'm trying uh, not not by force, but I am still maintaining, I would say, the same enthusiasm and the same joy I used to have as a 9-year-old boy, but I guess with much more uh, realization now about what this this subject can offer initially to me being involved with the music uh, and eventually to any other listener uh, of well either I perform in live audience or if they listen to any recording. So now I'm more let's say uh, I, I appreciate more what I'm doing because I realize that the greatness of it, not what I am doing is great, but the music is great. I also have this uh, approach and philosophical approach about music that I'm just passing by individual, but the music was always there. You know what I mean? And somehow the musicians, we just have like this chance of tasting just a bit more than the others that are not practicing music to taste just this greatness that always existed. I mean, I believe that we didn't somehow invented music. Music was always there. We just discovered music and we
Yeah.
tried to fit it in our needs. So in that sense, I don't believe I'm doing something great, but I believe I'm involved or I'm practicing or I'm trying to taste the maximum I can from this great source, from this great existence, which is music.
Yeah.
And Yeah, so afterwards, I managed to have I got also myself involved in guitar playing, classical guitar playing, and of course
Mm,
back then at school, like whatever was a bit popular was always
mm,
accepted, and
mhm,
I experiment myself in different musical environments back then, but always maintaining a strong passion about the music of the East. So
mm,
back then, I didn't have the chance to to being exposed in Makam music. I
mm,
mean, the rebetiko is somehow, let's say, the tempered version of the Makam system or the Byzantine music or all this generally of modal music of the East. So I was exposed partly because of the
mhm,
tempered nature of this instrument and the music. And afterwards, as I said, I studied classical guitar, but then we came back to Cyprus. I finished school and my military uh, uh, activities, etc. So then I moved back to Athens again to study extensively, let's say, the Western theory and the classical guitar in order to gain my degree. And a person that influenced me a lot, as much as it concerns the sound in general,
mm,
was my teacher on the classical guitar, who is a great soloist and composer himself. He's one of the respected, let's say, classical guitarists in Greece and not only. His name is Kostas Grigoreas, and
mhm,
he's a wonderful player. So through his lessons and through this uh, approach on the instrument that he taught me, I appreciated a lot the sound, the quality of
mm,
the sound. So before starting to study classical guitar, I had this wrong impression that because everything is written on the score, like all the notes are written, all the expression information is written, even the dynamics is not all of them, of course, but a general map of the dynamics is already written. I had this impression that everyone would sound the same if they respect the the score and even if they play with the same instrument. So if I play with the same
yeah,
guitar and then someone else plays with the same guitar and we respect the score, then there is not any space of expression or nothing could differentiate the sound, the sound
yeah,
quality, which I was very
interesting.
wrong. I was very wrong, was very naive on that subject. So my teacher Kostas taught me that you have many possibilities as a performer to express yourself through the sound, like technical wise, and also the approach, the philosophical approach on each composition, depending on the time that it was composed and from whom it was composed and even which ethnicity, because if a Spanish composer who lived in Alhambra composed something, uh, it has some elements that you should try to discover or should try to imagine in order to apply them to your performance when you perform such a composition.
Mm,
So it was a great journey for me back then to experience all these elements and all this information through the teachings of Mr. Grigoreas, and it created somehow it formed inside me an appreciation about sound in general. So whatever I was doing after his teachings changed in the sense that I tried to apply this sound quality in everything I was doing. So parallel, I started to have lessons on the oud, which I considered until now my main instrument, and I can explain why. So before moving to Athens, I just had the chance to find an oud which was not in the level that could provide a good sound, let's say. But I started messing around with it because I was fascinated with the sound. I heard its sound in a movie, I remember. So I was around 17, 18 years old, and I was walking in the living room, and the TV was on, and there was this scene that the people were walking in the forest, and the oud was playing, just solo oud. So I stopped and I freezed and I heard to this sound, and it was very short, I remember, like a few notes. It was not even a composition. So I started searching around to find out what is this instrument. I didn't know back then. So as I said, I had the chance to find an instrument not on a good level, but I tried to mess around and apply whatever I knew from the guitar or the bouzouki or the baklava on the oud. And I remember that,
Sorry to
yes,
cut you, Giannis. Do you remember the movie or which movie, which year,
it was a French movie,
and who
and
played it?
yeah, I think it was the Dance of the Wolves or Dancing with the Wolves. It was like a fairy tale,
Okay.
something like that.
Mm,
So, uh, and I must say that back then, although the internet slowly was coming in our lives,
mm.
still we didn't have like platforms to see whatever we want whenever we want, or to listen whatever we want whenever we want. Everything
Yeah,
was on a building up level, and nearly you could just maybe download some music that it should be popular, so you couldn't find just
yeah,
anything you could imagine as you can do now.
mhm, yeah.
So maybe now that we are talking, because I'm very keen into researching, so it was my first research to try to find information about the instrument.
Yeah.
So uh, when I moved back to Athens to start studying more seriously music, and I started the classical guitar, I had like this CD that was published by a Greek label. I think it was called Lyra. It's not. It's not. It doesn't. It's not publishing anymore. Doesn't exist anymore. But they had this series of recordings of traditional Greek instruments or traditional Greek music, let's say, because I
Yeah.
mean, what is called Greek instrument, it's another thing, another sub. Maybe we need another 3 hour
Sure.
interview
For
about
sure.
it. Anyhow, um, so I got in my hands this CD with solo oud playing from a wonderful virtuoso who is called Hayk Yazdjian. So uh, I got the oud in my hands. I had this CD. I mean, he was playing very difficult things back then for me. I couldn't play almost nothing from what I heard, but I was trying to figure out how to do it myself. So when I went to Athens, I had the chance to meet Hayk in a concert, and I decided that I would really want to focus on this instrument and have lessons from Hayk. So uh, again, I was fortunate enough to have him as a teacher for 4 continuous years. Like each week, we were having lesson for 4 years, because back then and even now, I mean, now things are a bit different, but back then these instruments the let's say traditional instruments, or the instruments of that are connected with the Eastern musical traditions, are not academically, are not let's say, you cannot have an actual degree on them. Okay, I mean there are some exams, etc., but you don't have like a degree from a conservatory, let's say, that can stand as a bachelor or as a diploma, equivalent diploma. So for me, it was like uh, having a bachelor on the oud, okay, for
An
4 years.
official, yeah.
Yeah, so I was very, 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 very focused and studying a lot. And as I said, Hayk is a great musician. He's a great performer as well, and he's a great virtuoso on the instrument, technical wise, but also, of course, musical wise. And also, besides all these characteristics, he's a very wonderful composer as well. So by studying the instrument next to him, I developed I I started to develop um, the technical aspect on the instrument, and also to apply the lessons of from the classical guitar, of from Costas, like the quality of the sound, the clarity of the sound. So I was putting all these elements in my effort of playing the oud. So from the very early stages, I realized that the sound on the oud must be as clear as possible, and the quality to be as good as possible, the sound quality. Uh,
Yeah.
because there is also this, there was, I mean, and maybe there is until today, this approach that part of the style, let's say, is to play a bit, as we call it, to play a bit dirty. Okay, not to be so clean. It's okay because it's part of the style. So I am on the other side. I appreciate the good quality of the sound. I appreciate the clarity of the sound,
Yeah.
the picking techniques, all these things that can deliver the the most of the instrument, and of course the most of our ideas as performers. So through the oud, I was exposed also to the Makam music. Although back then the first goal was to allow myself to accept the divisions, or the divisions of the semitone, let's say. Okay,
Yeah.
so all the intervals that are part of a strong part of the Makam system. So
Mm.
the first task was to train my ears to accept that this music is not out of tune. Okay, so that
Yeah.
was the first goal. And
So the temporal scale has to
ex
diminish or work
ex
in some other,
exactly, and
what they call it, quarter, three quarter, whatever.
yeah, 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 all these minor
Uh,
intervals. So microtonal.
yeah.
So uh, it was interesting also to to let's say realize that the Makam music, let's say, of the Rebetiko, if I could say it like this, has another version which is older, which is the source of it. Okay, so I went a bit on the other side. I was coming from the modern, let's say, version to the oldest one. So it was very fascinating to explore all these new, let's say for me back then,
Yeah.
fields of music. Um, So because Hayk Yazdjian, he's an Armenian born in Syria and moved to Athens. He was carrying in his playing the Arabic, let's say, style, okay, but
Hmm.
also he was naturally carrying the Armenian soul in his playing
Yeah.
and his compositions. So I was introduced to Makam music through the what is so called, it could be called the classical repertoire, the classical Arabic repertoire, which through my understanding, my perception, I think it developed through the years, uh, focusing mostly, let's say, on the rhythmic or the complexity of the rhythm in Makam music rather than melodic approach. Of course, there are great examples of great composers and compositions which also present the possibilities of modulations or intervals, etc. But I had the sense, and still do, that rhythm is a very fundamental part of the Arabic style. Even in the
Like percussive,
yeah,
mostly
it's
percussive. Yeah.
percussive. Yeah, I mean,
Mm.
besides the fact that percussionists have a very strong role
Yeah.
in the Arabic tradition, uh, also the melodic instruments have been developed playing wise in such a way. Like
Yeah.
you can hear there are so many trills or fast phrasing on the oud or the kanun. There are all these trills on the ney or on the violin, even on the voices. Like it's part of the style. So having Haig as a teacher and being introduced to the classical Arabic repertoire, I started also to appreciate a lot this music and trying to be as good as possible in all the technical challenges. So my main, let's say, focus was technique, and secondary was to understand the Makam system. So that was good on the sense that I focus on the technique, which I admire a lot. But I guess I didn't put as much as effort on the music itself, like the Makam system, to realize the Makam system. And back then, I just had the impression that Makam system is just a series of scales. So I had in on mind that I'm using scales as I do in Western music, with the difference that you can break them, let's say, in the middle, more or less, and you can combine it to switch to another scale and then to switch to another scale, and you can do whatever you want in these scales,
Yeah.
which is not true. Okay, I mean, Makam system
Mhm.
is much more interesting, let's say, and much more. I would avoid saying complex. It's not about
Yeah.
complexity. It's about
Intricate,
possibilities.
more
Yes,
intricate, more
exactly.
richer. Yeah.
Exactly. That
Yeah.
could describe it much better. So, parallel to the classical guitar lessons and the oud lessons, and the Western theory, etc., lessons I had, I also started at the National Conservatory in Athens to study Byzantine music.
Can
Uh,
we have a pause here,
yeah,
Yanis?
yeah, of
I
course.
would like you to shed some light on what repertoire you were doing with Hayek, the Arabic repertoire, just to get
Yeah,
an idea of
yeah.
of
I
4
mean,
years of
yeah, I was
uh,
also exposed into what is so-called like modern, like contemporary at that moment, Makam music or world music, etc.
yeah.
So generally, besides the classical repertoire, I was studying like the compositions of Hayk. I was studying the composition also of Yazdjian, because I appreciate it. Even he's not like into this Arabic style, but I appreciate it a lot, and I do still
Mhm.
like his playing and his compositions.
Yeah.
I was playing back then like Mohammed Abdel Wahab, Riyad Al Sumbati, um, like Munir Bashir, uh, so many, like Kulthum. I was studying back then. Uh,
Any instrumental pieces you recall from that repertoire? So you
I,
were actually for the songs you will play them instrumentally,
yeah,
I would guess.
yeah.
Takseems and maybe some instrumental pieces.
Yeah, I mean, one of my most favorite until now is the Longa of Riyad Al Sumbati.
Riyadh.
Okay, it's a very
Yeah.
classical one. Okay,
Okay, I got that. Yeah.
so I mean, I could remember so many, but you just get the
No, this is
idea.
enough. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
idea is clear. Then the
yeah,
National Conservatory and
yeah. I started studying Byzantine music, chanting, let's say, or singing Byzantine music at the National
Mhm,
Conservatory. And my teacher was Christos Haji Nicolaou.
mhm,
I had again the great opportunity to be in the group of his last students, because unfortunately he's not in life with us. So 2 or 3 years after the I finished my studies on Byzantine music, he unfortunately passed away. Um, the oud helped me a lot also on Byzantine chanting, because having a background on Western music and being able to understand, let's say, the intervals, the tempered intervals, then
mhm.
the connection point was the oud, in order to realize how I can sing the microtones. Okay, so it was a back and forth uh, process for me, because I mean, if someone says to you, like, sing to me a 10 microtone interval or eighth microtone interval, then it's quite impossible to do so if you don't have a reference.
Yes.
Okay, so my reference was the oud, but on the same time, I was also trying to find and to tune, let's say, all these microtones on the instrument itself. Uh, but it was an extremely fascinating process, and somehow all these directions I had, like Byzantine music, like classical guitar, oud, where everything somehow was put in the same pot, melted
Mhm.
up, and bringing a very unique source of information and cross check. So I could cross check, or being inspired from these traditions even when I was playing classical guitar. For example, I remember myself playing Capriccio Arabe on the classical guitar, uh, trying to perform it as I would do it, singing it in a Byzantine way, or playing it on the oud. So it influenced my perception on music, on my performance. All these elements influenced the way I approach music and the way I
Mhm.
understand music. So it would be extremely wrong, let's say, to spot uh, which element goes where and which served what occasion. Definitely, it has shaped my my approach and my perception on the music, generally speaking.
Yeah. So that comparative studies came automatic. in a phased approach, like one phase after another, or sometimes in parallel, but like
Yeah,
with a very well-founded stage, you know,
yeah, yeah,
till
yeah.
we reach to the National Conservatory for the Byzantine
Mhm.
music, and that took a couple of years, maybe four,
It lasted 5 years.
5 years. So if we summarize those 5 years
Yeah,
from instrument perspective, subjects studied, performances, activities, what
yeah.
were you doing in those 5 years?
Actually, 5 years
Either
was,
your
was
teacher or
yeah, yeah,
others.
yeah. Like things didn't start on the same moment. So, I mean, 5 years I needed to complete the Byzantine studies, but guitar started a bit later. So generally, I was for 7 years studying and living in Athens and trying to figure out what I really wanted to do. So I was slowly starting to perform, not on a regular pace, but I guess these years were like the basic, the fundamental years that helped me um, understand what I wanted to do. So, from the very first months of studying the oud, I understand it and realized and embraced my instinct to follow the path of the oud. So it was the leader, let's say, for my musical path, carrying with me also the teachings and the information and the elements from the other sources as well. So I found out that the oud was the mean for me to express my compositional ideas. So although I was playing like guitar and bouzouki and baglam, all these things that I pre-mentioned, uh, oud was the instrument to allow me in a very natural way to express the ideas I had. So in these 7 years, after a certain level, I started to experiment myself with composition. So I started building up my first melodies and my first ideas. So also, it made me realize and appreciate the richness and the power that instrumental music has,
Yeah.
because I think more or less we are all raised and exposed into songs mostly. Okay, at least in my occasion, I mean, we appreciate songs, we are taught songs, so we think that music has to be a song. It cannot be instrumental because
Yeah.
it's boring, or because it doesn't derive any
Abstract.
message. Yes, it's very abstract,
Mhm.
so it's not for the majority of the people. Okay,
Yeah.
although Western music has been developed in such a way that supports the completely different uh,
The contrary.
mentality, but
Yeah.
at least in my occasion, until I reach a certain age, I was believing that music has to have lyrics. So that was another great, let's say, uh, finding for myself, that I could express my ideas and the feelings I had, the emotions I have, or the generally the ideas I or the all these elements that get into my system. I could filter them and express them with instrumental music.
Yeah.
And it was a great finding for me because I believe that instrumental music somehow gives the composer, but also to the listener, the choice of build up their own story. So it's like I think usually of instrumental music as the music that would support a movie, even if that movie doesn't have any dialogue. It's just
Mhm.
images.
Okay.
Okay. So it's really important for me the composition to somehow bring at least emotions. Okay, because it's not really possible to bring a specific message if it's instrumental music. Maybe it has a description that this music was composed for this occasion or out of this uh, moment or for this person or for that
Yeah.
period, etc. But still, um, compared to a song that you have specific lyrics and you are guided to specific meanings, at least most of the times,
Yeah.
not always, instrumental music gives has the freedom both for the composer and the audience to make their own story. And that was a great sense of freedom for me.
Interesting.
Uh, because I thought that if I should be like the first year in Athens, I thought that I went there to become a songwriter or to write songs because the people I listened to back then were mostly songwriters and had at least the voice element in their compositions. So that opened for me an enormous sea of possibilities and field of expression. So I started slowly putting myself into this procedure of composing, and I realized that I had the ability to build up small compositions in the beginning without forcing them. So I was just expressing my feelings and my ideas like really naturally into compositional forms. Uh, then I came back to after finishing my studies, and I felt like the journey in Greece reached not its
To an
end,
end.
but let's say it made its cycle, as we say. So I came back to Cyprus for 2 years in order to prepare for the next step.
Before
Uh,
we go,
yeah,
before we go there,
yeah.
I would like to just comment on the way that
Please.
you remember the original thought of the experience, like the misunderstanding of something, then what you understood and what you found, which is very interesting to our audience. And
I
also,
hope
it's
so.
good that, yeah, good that like Giannis at this time is not forgetting those years because of the many other influences and encounters that came later. We still
Yes.
keep the original interesting insights we received, which is very important actually.
Yeah.
And also for this essence of what is music, what is it for, which you have highlighted in a very interesting way when you came to composing
Mm-hmm.
versus singing.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a belief that the essence of a music in both, if we say both directions, is actually this, even for songs. Because sometimes lyrics for those beginners or sometimes it puts a barrier on the music itself. It's a music actually,
Mm.
especially if it is in the hands of a great composer,
Yes.
right? But
Yeah.
sometimes the lyrics will stay as a barrier.
Yes.
It might stop them from reaching to this essence of music. And before we reach to the next phase, which seems to be like an end in Athens,
Yes.
this is interesting. But before we go there, I'd like you to highlight what activities you did in the National Conservatory. Like what sort of study was it? Uh, what subjects? Which instruments? Just quickly,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I
Uh,
think this is important. We have seen different experiences, different instruments,
mhm,
different
mhm,
sources. You call them, yeah,
mhm, mhm.
yeah. Just a
S-
quick
Yeah.
round of, yeah,
So, not to be misunderstood, but when I say conservatory, it's not set, at least the one I was, and the one that is offered for this kind of music, like Byzantine music, is not
yeah,
formed in the context we have for European, let's say, conservatories that offer
mhm,
bachelor degrees, because it was not a bachelor degree. Because
mhm,
uh, although Byzantine music is recognized, let's say, by UNESCO as a national, as a world treasure, let's say, cultural treasure,
yeah,
uh, and it's practiced for so many centuries, and it's part of the of this of each one that is, let's say, goes to a church. Okay,
mm,
so it's part of his or her life. It's part of their life.
mhm,
Besides all this great existence in the life and in the cultural character, let's say, of at least Greece and Cyprus for my occasion, it is not, let's say, supported by the state uh, on the degree that it should.
mhm,
Also, the traditional music or the folklore music or the instruments, until today you cannot have actually a degree equivalent to a bachelor degree on other
mm,
subjects.
yeah,
So uh, on that sense, I mean, it has the mentality of a conservatory, but practically it's not built up or formed into the context of a European conservatory. So you have
yeah,
the option to choose what you want to study, and through
mhm,
exams you go to the next level and to the next level until you degree them to reach the maximum degree possible.
mhm,
So at the conservatory, like as I said, I had the Byzantine music lessons, and I got my diploma, which is the highest, let's say, degree you can have from an official, let's say, degree you can have for that subject. And
mhm,
also, I had like Western theory lessons uh, in order to be able to give also the exams for the classical guitar. Uh, and parallel to this, I had like the private lessons on the oud for four
yeah,
years continuously. That was it, more or less,
yeah.
as
Clear,
as an experience.
very clear. What forms did you compose that you mentioned at the earlier stages?
Yeah,
Because you are exposed to all these.
yeah. I think that I wasn't thinking back then about forms. Uh, I was just thinking. I was approaching it as a child, in the sense that, okay, I have this small idea. How could I develop this melody to go to some another level of interest, and then switch
Mhm,
it to go there, and then maintain the interest in general? And which rhythm was I? Maybe a rhythm was stuck on my mind, so I was trying to, or a makam was stuck on my mind, so I was trying
mhm,
also to compose on that given elements.
Mm.
I must say that my first goal, an initial goal, an ultimate goal was to express the emotional state that I
Message.
was at the
Mhm.
moment, at a certain moment.
Clear,
And
clear.
again, it's really important for me that I strongly believe that whatever you do, if you try to force it in any way, something will not be sincere. It will be artificial, let's say. So if I say like I need to compose something on SMI or a Peshref or a Longa or whatever it's the case, if I say to myself that I have to do this, it will be in the end a bit artificial. Maybe it will be interesting melodic wise because I will put whatever knowledge I have, I will try to squeeze it out and get something good out of it. But I think it's not about composing as much as possible, at least for me, is about composing when there is a need to compose. So usually, if you are open to to the environment around you, you will get much inspiration and much emotion, many emotions. So either you want it or not, you will reach a certain level that the capacity of your emotional, let's say, warehouse need to be cleaned. So you have to compose something, or you are in a state emotionally that you need to express, or you saw something that brings inspiration to you. Uh, or usually, for my experience, you just grab the instrument to practice, then you make a taksim or an improvisation or whatever you can call it, and then you realize that oh, this melody, this small group of notes can be the seed for something bigger. So again, I don't have this, let's say, discipline of saying that okay, I need to study for this amount of hours each day, and I have to study this, and I have to study the other thing, and I have to study rhythmic things, and I have to study melodic things. I study in general. I never stop actually. Uh, I've never stopped studying. So I get the instrument to play something, an idea comes, and slowly, slowly I build it up. And because I have this characteristic of when I start something, I want to finish it.
Yeah.
uh, if a melody comes, then it's in on my mind all the time until I get the maximum I can, emotional wise and ideas, idea wise, let's say, based on that first on that seed.
Yeah.
And then I leave it there to have space for something new. Uh,
Interesting.
yeah,
Very
and
interesting.
somehow it
Mm.
maintains actually the initial, uh, let's say, the initial meeting with the music.
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah.
still it's still consider it as a game. It's a toy, but I have developed a great respect and acknowledgement for what it is, the power it has and the richness it has.
Interesting. And in this period, before going back home,
Hmm.
did you had a chance to work in a band or maybe do a concert or friction with other musicians in general?
No, you know what? I was very introvert back then, extremely introvert. So I was just going to see concerts. I remember I didn't miss almost any concert of my teachers. and generally I try to go to as much concerts as possible. But I was not into this approach of let's meet and play, or let's meet with other musicians and have a band or an ensemble, etc.
Yeah.
Because partly I think, and I maintain it until now on several subjects, I have this, when I appreciate something or someone, I have so much great respect that I realize that I'm so small, or so it's not my time yet to do something. Okay.
Mm.
So I was also putting, and I still do, I'm putting my goals on the highest possible, but
Mhm.
maintaining the respect in the procedure and having the patience on the procedure
Yeah.
and the faith on the procedure. But back then I thought like it's too early for you to play or your compositions, or to play with other musicians and to be exposed, let's say. First, I
Interesting.
need to reach a technical level, the highest possible, to have some knowledge that I would believe it's enough, at least to
Mhm.
starting being exposed, etc. So, on one hand, it is not healthy as one might think, but on
Yeah.
the other hand, it's like, as I like to describe it, as a boiling pot. So, like food, it needs time to be prepared, and if you take it even in small portions before it's ready, then it's a pity because it didn't reach at least a certain level of being ready to be served. Okay, uh, without saying that now I'm ready to be served. Okay, I will never be enough for being served for the reasons I mentioned before, but uh, that put me in the procedure of trying to be the best possible, firstly for myself, not for others, and not to get myself into this uh, unhealthy procedure of comparing my abilities to other musicians, because it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't have any actual importance. We are all different. We are all have our own paths. Maybe some paths are crossed, but there is not any path that could stop another one. Okay, so I was challenging myself. This is what I was doing back then, and that was the healthy part of this mentality, let's say. So I was getting one exercise to work on from my teachers, and then I was building up maybe five or six out of it, because I was
Yeah.
challenging myself. Can I do it in that way? Can I do it in that way? Would it be possible to do it with this fingering, or can I do it with alternating the picking, or in another position on the fretboard? So all
Mm.
these things uh, shaped my ability on the instrument, and also
Mm.
gave me much more confidence that whatever is the case afterwards, that time would allow to be exposed,
Mhm.
and then I would be able to correspond in the most I could. And
Interesting.
the only exposure I had back then, I had the chance to play the very last 2 years before I leave Athens. I was playing uh, solo oud and singing in a place which was like a theater. So after the end of the theatrical play, which had to do back then with Lebanon, then they needed someone to give a small concert for the audience after the theatrical play was finished, and that lasted for 2 years because the theatrical play had a success back then in Athens. So for 2 years, I was playing 2 or 3 times per week and performing as a soloist and oud and singing and also using some equipment back then that I was fascinated with, like a loop station. It was the beginning back then that the loop station was introduced to the audience. So yeah, that was actually my these were my memories and
Excellent.
experiences from Athens, more or less.
Yeah, interesting. And you were playing and singing, you said.
Yeah, partly singing. Yes, yes, yes,
Okay. That
yes.
was which sort of singing? Which kind of genre?
Uh, I was also singing like one or two compositions in songs in Arabic. I was learning back then Arabic. Now I don't remember
Okay.
almost anything. So I started studying also the writing, etc., and the alphabet. But I was just learning by ear and by reading the text and by cross-checking the information with native speakers, etc. And I was also singing some one or two Greek traditional
Mhm.
pieces. And also, it was the first time actually to perform maybe one or two compositions of mine. Uh, but also, as I said, because of having the loop station, another way of expression was there. And part to that, I mean, I had a limited time of the concert, like it was like 40 minutes, 45 minutes each
Mhm.
time. So if you have a few taksims and then four or five, six compositions, that's the end. So that was
Very
what it
interesting.
is. Yeah.
I think we should now go for a break with
Yeah.
our audience. Do you like to share something like memories or maybe a piece of music? If it is fast forward,
Yeah.
then we'll go back to when you went
Yeah.
back home.
Yeah.
What would you
Maybe.
like to share?
Yeah. Maybe there is a solo performance of mine, like playing the oud. Uh, it was the result of a photo shooting session. So I went for a shooting session, and then we really liked the environment and the scene, the setup there. So I decided to have just an improvisation to just have the memory captured, let's say. So maybe that would be a nice moment to share.
When was this recorded?
It was 2 or 3 years
Oh,
ago, actually. It was not
okay.
back then. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
We'll listen to it then together and
Thank
get
you so
back.
much. Yes.
Yeah. So thanks, Yanis, for the solo oud improvisation. Let's move forward with going back home. What happened then?
Yes. So around 2011, more or less, 2011 or 12, I don't remember clearly, I left Athens and came back to Cyprus uh, with all this, let's say, knowledge back then in my mind and in my soul. And I was trying to figure out what would be the next step in order to continue the path. So after 2 years, I heard about the Conservatory of Rotterdam in the Netherlands, which offered a master's degree and also a bachelor degree uh, on modal music of the Eastern Mediterranean. Let's say, like the department was under the title Turkish department,
Mhm.
but the lessons and generally the approach was much more open. It was not just focusing on what is considered traditional Turkish music. And it was the first time I heard about uh, Kudsi Erguner. So Kudsi Erguner is the main, it's the head, let's say, of the Turkish department. And I had the chance, besides of having him as a supervisor on the research I was doing back then, I had the chance also to have lessons from him on Makam music, which are very of a great value for me until today, and it will always remain of great value. And some of them I managed to record them, and sometimes I live the moment again by listening to the recordings of the lessons.
Yeah.
So I moved to the Netherlands and started my master's studies, having oud as a main instrument, and which lasted for 2 years. Uh, the procedure,
Mhm.
and for me it was a cornerstone. It was a, let's say, a new door opened for me in the sense that I was exposed to what is called Ottoman music. Because back then, when I was in Athens, I was not so in into Ottoman music or into what is called Turkish style or Ottoman style or alla turca or whatever you can call it. I was mostly, as I said, fascinated with classical Arabic music or contemporary back then modal music, and was mostly enthusiastic about the technical possibilities of the instrument rather the the melodic possibilities of the Makam system. So
Yeah.
through the through the teachings of Kutsi, an enormous door opened for me in order to realize the greatness and the richness of Makam music, and to realize that there is much of of a field to explore through the classical Ottoman repertoire, and also to realize that Makam music, it has much deeper essence, rather just technically approaching it or rhythmically approaching it. So I really like to think of it as when I was in Athens, I was focusing on my right hand, and my left hand was on a secondary of secondary importance. So I'm right-handed, so pick was the challenge mostly. Left hand was not so important. Now things switched. Now left hand was of great importance, and the right hand was like a wild horse that needed to be uh, calmed down.
Yeah.
So, like technical wise, I had to apply all the teachings of Kutsi in the sense of the intervals and how to perform like the note attractions to one another in order to
Mm.
present efficiently the character of the given makam.
Mhm.
And so I needed some time in order to wake up, let's say, my left hand, and in order also to calm down my right one, which had other technical challenges, but it wasn't on a level difficult in the sense compared to what I had already developed technical wise. But it was another approach. So
Mm.
I needed time in order to uh, understand and analyze and break into pieces, let's say, what I must do also with the right hand. But as I said, the left hand was of greater importance. So
Yeah.
besides the technical part of Ottoman music, I started understanding the great possibilities that Makam music has itself. So
Mm.
another perception that I had, which I said before about scales and about just breaking a scale into the middle and then putting the Lego, let's say, in order to go from this to this and from that to that. So I understood that Makam system and Makams are not scales. And the idea behind them is much more interesting than just having scales being glued together somehow. Uh, and also the repertoire itself and the way that the repertoire was like the history behind the repertoire, because until back then I was thinking that being a student in the Turkish department, also Ottoman music is Turkish. Okay, and also it might occur by the fact that I was born in Cyprus, and Cyprus, as you may know, is a divided country, a divided island. So without understanding it, being raised in Cyprus, you develop an idea that you must divide what is Turkish and what is Greek or what is Cypriot. Okay, so everything was divided in our daily life, in our minds through school years, etc. So until I reach a certain level of age and understanding about the reality and why the island is divided, and to understand that there is nothing actually to divide. On the contrary, there are so many common elements, rather divisions. But anyhow, things are like that until today, unfortunately. And so I thought like, okay, this is Turkish, so maybe by instinct doesn't interest in me a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
But I realized that Ottoman music actually doesn't have ethnicity.
Mm.
And that's the beauty of it. And I
Mm.
appreciated uh, the fact that it is a common language of all the ethnicities, like Turks, Greeks, Arabs, Jews, Armenians, all the people that Iranians, all the people that share the same, let's say, aesthetics, more or less, about music, being part of the Eastern uh, geographical, let's say, territory. So that also, let's say, demolished any sense of division I had.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it's really interesting that through Ottoman music and the teachings of Kutsi, somehow all the instinctively, uh, let's say, approach on dividing or categorizing things
Mm.
was immediately disappeared.
Rif- Yeah.
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 So uh, that also brought me into the realization that uh, besides the common language, which is the modal music of the Eastern Mediterranean, or Makam music, or or Ottoman music, whatever you can call it, it is also connected with Byzantine music, which is one of the main sources uh, of Makam music. It's also connected to uh, the initial, let's say, uh, music of Persia,
Yeah.
and also to the classical Arabic music, and also to the Jewish church music, and also to the Armenian tradition. So things that I had in advance in my system were coming now under the umbrella of Ottoman music.
Yeah.
So it was like finding, let's say, the initial point, or a meeting point, better. I
Mm.
could say a meeting point rather than the initial one. So everything
Mm.
could be put on the same table with the same appreciation, and being
Mm.
examined with the same uh, love and enthusiasm,
Mm.
without the need of, okay, this is Arabic, this is Turkish, this is Greek, this is tempered, this is not tempered, this is Makam, this is not Makam.
Undivided.
Yes, yes. So it was
Mm.
a unification actually happened within myself and my perception about music. Uh, and like, I could not skip saying a few words about Kutsi, because uh, Kutsi has this ability to bring, if you are willing to do so, to bring so much enthusiasm within yourself just by one lesson, because himself is purely and naturally given to music. He has devoted himself into what he does, and besides this, he also comes from the family tradition. His grandfather was a great ney player. His father was a great ney player, and he is continuing like this great tradition himself. And taking into consideration also this, the history he carries on his shoulders and in his soul and in his mindset, uh, it's unavoidable not to get inspired by this person, by this human being. And
Yeah.
besides this, and besides the fact that of course he's a great source of knowledge, I considered him as a living legend, because when usually when you meet a person, immediately you it's he's reachable. Okay, so
Mm.
immediately, maybe sometimes uh, it's more easy to forget the importance or the greatness of a human being when you have the chance to sit on the same table with him, but
Yeah.
uh, because I always, as I said before, maintain a great respect and appreciation about certain people and certain things like music. I maintained this appreciation for the existence of Kudsi as well, and he has taught me not only uh, many many things based on Makam music, and not only, but I consider him as a mentor. And the idea of mentor, the understanding about what is considered a mentor for me is that you get inspired by him as a living organism. Okay, like whatever he does, the way he speaks, the way he deals with the music, the way he deals with audience, all these things are very interesting to observe, and to get inspired and to get ideas uh, on not only music but life in general.
Yeah.
Okay, and he's also a great example to demolish all this idea that each one should be like, if you want to succeed, you must be like a non-stoppable fireball that goes only straight forward with the maximum power without taking into consideration anything, because we live in a very challenging world. Okay, so Kutsi is a great example that if you are devoted to what you do with all your heart, and you are sincere, firstly to yourself and to the audience, to the public that you are referred to, and of course, if you have a special talent as Kutsi has, then you can reach, you can be, you can taste a big amount of the art of music uh, by remaining humble and appreciating the efforts of the people next to you. And his teachings, as I said, were really valuable for me, and also his input on the subject of my research was important, because I was trying back then to, I was not one of these students that knew in advance before going there, okay, I will research on that specific subject, and I will do this and this and this. I was not, I didn't plan what I was going to actually focus my research on. So through the lessons of Kutsi and his ideas and his perception about things, and being enthusiast also myself about the new door which Ottoman music opened for me, uh, I tried to find a way to connect my previous studies with what I was doing there, so that not to
Mm.
break the, let's say, the continuity of the path.
Mm.
So I decided, after conversations and discussions with Kutsi, and understanding what should be the best thing for me to focus on, I decided to focus on the Taksim performance,
Mm.
but to also find ways to connect Byzantine music with what I was trying to do.
Mm.
So a way I ended up doing that idea was to base my research on compositions that are found in unpublished manuscripts kept in monasteries, in Greek monasteries. So there is this great figure in Ottoman music and Byzantine music also, who is called Petros Lambadarios, or Petros Peloponnesios, or Petraki, as they have it on most of the scores you can find.
Yeah.
So Petraki lived in the middle, let's say, of 18th century, more or less. So he was a great composer, a great researcher himself. Thanks to him, uh, we have a vast repertoire on Byzantine hymnology, Byzantine music, and besides his path on Byzantine music, and he was also a chanter at the Patriarch in Istanbul back then. He was one of the two chanters, main chanters of the Patriarch church.
Mhm.
Besides these activities, he was also a nail player,
Mhm.
and a very respectful one, as historical evidence prove. And he was called like master from the Sufi brotherhood, and he was also taking participate in the ceremonies of the willing dervishes back then. Besides the
Yeah,
fact that he was also singing in the Patriarch Church.
yeah,
So the basic characteristic of Petrarchy is that his melodies, his phrasing, is very essential. So on
Mm.
the given compositions of him, you can almost not ignore any of the phrases of the composition. It's like not even a single phrase was just put there to complete
Huh.
the cycle, you know.
Yes,
So it's a main
yes,
characteristic of him, and we cannot skip the fact that he was the one, because back then the notation system in Byzantine music was a bit stenographic. It wasn't analyzed note by note. So a symbol would correspond to a certain phrase, let's say. So the only way to learn was to practice back then the music itself. So the
yeah,
notation system was not useful if you didn't already know the music. Okay, it served as a source of refreshing the memory
yeah.
rather than reading the score and figuring out the melody. So Petrarchy, what he did, he was the first one actually to uh, bring an update, let's say, of the notation system, more
Mm.
analytical, giving
Yeah,
the option for better understanding, let's say, or for faster learning the music, because
mm.
you can imagine you should memorize so many phrases or understand so many symbols in order to be able to perform Byzantine
Yeah,
music. But with this presentation of the, let's say, updated notation system, then things would be understood much faster for the ones who were willing to understand. But and also he rewrote a great amount of compositions of great composers before him that were only written in the stenographic version. He rewrites them, he rewrote them, and thanks to him, we have the ability to perform them today. Okay, if it wasn't for him, then a great amount of compositions would be, let's say, lost, or it will be extremely difficult for the general community who is into Byzantine music to understand what is going on.
yeah.
Uh, so he was, I mean, he lived more or less 40 years or 44 years, more or less, but he managed to do so many great things during his life.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
he was respected at the Patriarch, he was respected from the Sultan, from the Sufi community. He did all this great work with the notation system. And I knew in advance and through the beginnings of the research, that there is an amount of compositions of him being unpublished. So
Before we go on to this,
yeah,
can you highlight what did he do exactly in the notation that made it different from the old one, that made it easier rather than a guide is
yeah,
giving you
yeah.
the
So
learning and
okay,
analytical part?
okay.
Yeah.
I haven't studied the notation system before his let's say update, but
Yeah.
we know from manuscripts. I mean, I saw manuscripts, I studied them, but I could not understand them. That imagine you have a symbol, and that
Mm.
symbol corresponds to a melodic phrase.
Okay.
Okay, so if you don't know the melodic phrase in advance, then you cannot translate the symbol.
Okay. So it's like
Okay,
meaningless. It's just
for yeah, for
yeah.
someone who wants to learn, but he doesn't have someone to teach him,
Mm.
it's a dead end. You cannot actually learn.
Okay. So it's a
Okay,
symbol that has no mapping
exactly.
to it.
So what he did, he took that symbol and he created uh, an analytic version of that
Mm.
phrase, which corresponds almost to each note. Okay.
Okay. So he explicitly took the symbol into
Yes.
something that's readable and
Yes,
playable.
exactly.
Interesting.
Much more
Interesting.
easy to understand the majority of the phrase. Maybe not
Interesting.
100% back then, but you could understand, let's say, 80% of the melody. Okay, because
Way better than zero.
yes, exactly. Because and I'm saying 80% more or less, it's just a number. I mean, we
Yeah.
cannot statistically be specific, but uh, less than a century later, in 1814, like Petros died in 1777 or
Mm.
1773, some sources say.
Yeah.
So after a few years, like 50 years more or less, in 1814, there was, let's say, another update based on the notation system of Petros, fully analytical.
Mm.
Okay, so that
Interesting.
system is the one that today, if you want to learn Byzantine music, that's the system that is taught.
That's the door to
Yes, yes.
it.
So let's say, for example, if you wish to learn Byzantine music, you could learn the notation system really fast and start
Mhm.
to actually uh, sing compositions like in a very short amount of time. Okay.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah. So I
So
mean,
I
it's
think
not. It's
we can go in detail in that, but I don't want to cut the
yeah.
train of thought where you say there were a lot of unpublished works for
Yes.
Petrarchy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we
Yes.
go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't have a lot of compositions of him available,
Mm.
but even the ones we have clearly indicate the the greatness, I would
Value.
say, of the value of his compositional ability.
Yes.
And so I had to take, uh, I could take actually either the easy way to conclude my, to fulfill my, no, to finish my master studies, or to take a bit the more, let's say, complicated. I wouldn't say the hard one. Okay,
Yeah.
so the easy one would be like uh, the idea of my subject was how to get uh, information from given compositions in order to develop your phrasing in the taksim and to build up a taksim that makes sense, that corresponds to the makam's character, but being inspired, having as a source a given composition. So it was
Yeah.
also an approach that Kutsi was doing through his lessons in order to explain how you can perform a taksim. I remember he was
Yeah.
giving us a composition like say SMI or a Peshref, and he was saying like try to figure out what is going on in this melody and break it and make it free in order to have it as a phrase for your taksim. It was one of the fundamental ways to teach us. And it's very nice to compare it to a bird that it's in the cage and you're trying to find a way to open up the cage for him, for it to fly, but to continue, of course, to be a bird, not to switch to another thing. Okay,
Interesting.
so it was actually the reversed approach because compositions were somehow most of the times taksims that were fixed into uh, uh, a context of a given compositional form. It should
Yeah.
fit the rhythmic cycle. It should fit the divisions, the chapters, etc. So it was like doing the reversed approach of that
Mhm.
sense. Like instead of just trying to grab the bird to put it in the cage and give a composition, to get the bird out of the cage to have it as a taksim. So
Yeah.
the easy way was to get given compositions of wonderful composers and try to analyze them and extract all the necessary information in order to build up a meaningful thesis and to present it. But the other way, the more interesting
The
for
long
my
way.
understanding, the long way, was to
Yeah.
find also these compositions which were unpublished of a great musician that we know that
Mm.
he's a great, let's say, phrase maker. Okay,
Mm.
I'm sorry, and to also connect it with my previous studies on Byzantine music, which
Mhm.
made sense for me, much more sense. And finally, to have something also, let's say, new to deliver besides the research itself and the ideas that someone might get through the research. So it is really fascinating still for me to explore things that are, let's say, not explored. Okay, I mean there are
Mm.
other, of course, colleagues that are into researching and analyzing manuscripts, of course, but until that certain moment, until I was studying, at least the compositions that I presented were not found uh, anywhere. So it was really a very nice quest because I had to start. I had to travel to Mount Athos, which is like a
Mm.
complex of monasteries in northern Greece. I had to travel there, and I had to get the permission to even see the manuscript. Imagine how what the goal would be to even to be given a copy of it, a digital copy of it. So
Yes.
it was really interesting to experience this quest, and thank God I managed to get the copy of the manuscript and being able to further examine it and analyze it and extract all the necessary information in order to present a meaningful research at the end of the master studies.
Super.
Uh, yeah, and it was interesting also because besides the research itself and the thesis itself, again with Kutsi, because there is a long collaboration of him with the foundation in Venice called Cini Foundation. It's a foundation which supports researches and any meaningful cultural efforts.
Yeah.
So there for many years, a workshop with a different subject each year, directed by Kudsi Erguner, it was happening, called Birun.
Mm.
So each year for 1 week, after many musicians would apply, they would get selected. A few number of them would be selected in order to participate in this workshop on a specific subject under the idea of Ottoman music. And at the end, there was a recording also and a publication, and then there was a concert directed, all these things by Kudsi Erguner in collaboration with the Chini Foundation. So I'm saying all this because these compositions I managed to analyze and get from the manuscript were also presented, I would dare to say, for the first time after centuries, in that context of Birun, under the
Yeah.
direction of Kutsi, and we had the pleasure to record some of them, and it was very, very, very memorable for me, because you imagine finding something that is unpublished, and then you have the chance to present it in a wonderful hall with the direction of Kutsi Erguner. And so it was a great joy for me it was like not a reward, but it came to establish the meaning of the efforts
Yeah. Yeah. So
somehow.
fruits are coming out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And still, I mean, there are so many things to be explored in not only this manuscript, but in general.
Yeah.
So there is a thought, I mean, to maybe start soon enough a PhD based on that work I've done in the context of the master studies, in order to furthermore explore the possibilities in PhD level.
Yeah. Now I have a few good questions to ask, but before
Okay.
that, can we maybe taste some of the fruits from the Bureau
Yes.
concerts? What can
Yeah.
we share with the audience?
We could share a video from one of these performances there. There is also a
Mhm.
wonderful uh, performance. We had the chance to perform there at San Giorgio di Maggiore Island, in the church, in the Basilica
Mm.
of San Giorgio there, which had a great acoustics, and it was a great moment also for me to remember. So maybe we could have a listen
Sure.
and look to that one.
Wonderful. Will do. And
Thank
get
you
back
so
to you.
much. Thank you so much.
Ce concert est important car il met ensemble deux traditions musicales, la tradition byzantine d'un côté et la tradition soufie de l'autre, dans la dernière ville divisée d'Europe, Nicosie. Donc nous allons faire ce soir, par ce concert, la réunification de l'île par la musique.
Nous avons eu l'occasion ce soir, grâce à l'Institut français de Chypre, qui a organisé ce fantastique concert en coopération avec Garo Karayan et la Pharos Foundation, d'assister donc à ce concert fabuleux de 3 artistes de nationalités différentes, mais de culture et de traditions communes. Et c'était vraiment fantastique. Donc merci à Kudsi Erguner, à Giannis Koutis et à Nikos Andikos pour le magnifique concert. Et un grand merci aussi à Sébastien de Courtois qui travaille pour l'Institut français de Chypre et qui a été l'organisateur, l'initiateur de ce magnifique concert.
Tonight we have done a very exceptional concert for me because the repertoire was new. And also, it's first time that we play in this trio. And this place is so extraordinary. But not only the place and the music, and we had a public so nice, so deeply involved with the music. It was a great, great pleasure to play in this condition. And I hope that we will have other occasions to do this concert again and to discover this public, which they are so open-minded listeners. I am very thankful to Pharos Foundation and also French Cultural Institution who did contribute enormously to this project to make it happen.
We are here at the wonderful space of Pharos Art Foundation. After the concert, we had a wonderful time performing music from both the Byzantine repertoire but also from the Ottoman classical repertoire. I am very privileged and delighted to play next to my beloved teacher Kudsi Erguner. It was the first time we performed in Cyprus, and also it was the first time to perform next to Nikos Andrikos, which is a wonderful player. I really thank the French Institute of Cyprus and also Pharos Foundation and Garo Karayan for hosting us tonight here. It was a wonderful night.
It was an extraordinary evening tonight and a great privilege for the Pharos Arts Foundation to host 3 amazing musicians. And it just proved that music is a unifying and transformative force, because we listened to the great sacred music of 2 major traditions, the Byzantine tradition and the Ottoman tradition, both of which existed in Cyprus. And it's been a really extraordinary evening, and we're very, very grateful to the French Institute, to the Embassy, to Société Générale for bringing this extraordinary evening to reality.
So, in this time when you met Kudsi, there is a before and after. I
Yes.
can give some examples. Maybe our audience share with us this inquisite part where we need to see how were you understanding Makams
Mm-hmm.
when you were exposed to the Arabic
Mm-hmm.
versus to the Ottoman music and with Kudsi, for example, or
Mm-hmm.
other things, the way you looked
Yep.
at music, the way you looked at, as you said, right and left hand, musicality in general,
Yeah, yeah,
musicianship, for example, and so on.
yeah. Okay, so it's funny because, as I was saying before, I stopped dividing things, but now we have a we will have a division of before and after, which is
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Now this is to see how things came to be
yes,
cooked
I know,
in the
I
pot.
know, I know, I know, I know. Stories need to be divided in order to be understood, definitely.
Yeah.
Uh, So
we do it like Petrarchy analysis.
yes.
Yeah.
So the big thing about Makam music that switched on in my mind was the fact that Makam music is not about scales. Okay, so and I know that the early publications, let's say, or the early the musicians that would perform, let's say, the Arabic style, if we can call it that, like the first recordings we have, and the first publications we have about Makam music are not dealing with music as with Makam music as scales in the Western mentality. Okay, but
Yeah.
I guess through the years, for a reason I cannot really know, things got a bit more, let's say, simplified. Also with the microtones.
Can we say oversimplified? You mean oversimplified?
Uh, I don't, I cannot measure it, to be honest, what is oversimplified
Okay.
and not, because everything has to also have a practice, I mean, if I say to you, like, play me 2 microtones lower or 1 microtone lower, or sing to me this thing, maybe you know it theoretically, but practically, is it indeed applied? Okay,
Yeah.
so I mean, Kanun can really play exactly like the microtones, for example. I guess it's the only instrument that really can perform all the intervals in great accuracy.
I see them debate even about
Yeah,
Kanun and Tambour and everything.
yeah,
So approximately, yes.
yes. Let's say it's the best example we have. Also in
The
Tambur, I
most
mean,
close, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Also in Tambur, I mean, you could just move a bit
Move.
like the Berden, then what is correct and not.
Exactly.
Uh,
Yeah.
so it's practically, I wouldn't say if it's oversimplified or not, but I realize that things are more simplified until, at least nowadays, when we explain the Arabic Makam compared to Ottoman Makam. Okay, but still it depends on the musician and on the background the musician has, and on the knowledge that musician has, and on the sources that there are out there, and it's not black and white in
Yeah.
of course. So at least for my understanding and my experience, I was dealing with Wakam music as scales, but after being introduced to Ottoman music and to the teachings of Kudsi Erguner, this thing changed. And it was again this moment of reaccepting things and letting things go. Because, for so many years, if you believe that this is it, this is how the things work, and then somebody shows a way that things are not working, let's say only like this,
Yeah.
okay, it's not again yes or no, then you have to be able to let go of the things that maybe are not as you thought it were.
Was that including the echoes of the Byzantine music?
Things there in Byzantine music, because of the nature of the Byzantine music, which is more conservative and is based on the voice, is not based on the instruments. And the Byzantine music, it's serves a specific need in the
Yeah.
church, okay, and
Yeah.
and it is conservative in the sense that instruments are not used in Byzantine music. You just have the voice. or the voices. Either it's a choir that they are singing the same melody, not exactly in the same way, of course, but or you have like a main singer and you have the drones, like they are keeping, the others are keeping the drones, changing depending on which direction the melody goes and which interval they are highlighting.
Yes.
So Byzantine music, because of its conservative character, let's say, was and still is more clear for me. Okay, but still, because you don't have, I mean, if you have given compositions, as in Byzantine music, because you don't have the element of improvisation, you don't have a gazelle as we have in Arabic music or Turkish or Ottoman music. You don't have improvisation. So you don't have instruments, you don't have improvisation. You have given compositions, given texts, which is based on the Psalms of David. So everything is very set. You cannot, if you don't have the element of improvisation or self-expressing music on the spot, on the moment, you can only compose melodies on a given text, okay, which must correspond, let's say, on the style that the previous composers delivered to us. So in that sense, you are taught like the intervals, like this echos has these intervals, and then you cannot just do whatever you want. Freedom and understanding Makam mostly comes into realization when you will perform a taksim. This is how I understand it, because if you put a composition in front of me and you just let me know which Makam it is, and then I will play it, it doesn't necessarily mean that I understand what the Makam is doing. Okay, I'm just playing the intervals. Maybe if I am a bit more curious, let's say, I would try to understand what is going on there. But I think through the process of taksim and being called to perform a taksim, then you more clear, let's say, understand or get the perception about what Makam system is about. For me, the intervals are given there just to know, let's say, the relationship from this note to this note. What is the relationship interval-wise? But most importantly is to understand like the character and the ethos of the Makam, of each Makam. So for me, each Makam has some fundamental elements which, besides the intervals and some note attractions, like you know that this is an important note, this and this, let's say these two or these three notes are very important. It's like a stop, an extended stop, or an extended presentation of that degree. And some notes attract others according to the direction of the melody. But I really like to describe what makes a Makam, what builds up the character besides this element. It's the melodic progression. Okay, so if I describe, if I say a story, let's say, without respecting the chapters of this story, then it will be a mixed story. Imagine reading a book and reading chapter 3, then going to chapter 1, then to 5, then to mix up the chapters. So you, in the end, you get an idea of the story, but you get a confused or a mixed up version of that very clear story that was put in a book.
It might be corrupt.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
maybe you don't finish the book. You just read
Yes.
1 or 2 or 3 chapters, and then you think, okay, I get the idea. But if you would read the whole story in the proper order, then you get a very clear idea about the story. That's the Makam.
Yeah.
So for me, that's the ultimate goal of understanding the Makam. Each Makam has what is called the Seir. It's a journey of presenting the degrees in a certain, let's say,
Progression.
yes, chapter by chapter, to present the basic elements of the Makam, respecting the intervals, applying all these attractions to another note depending on the melodic movement, in order and paying the relevant attention to the specific degrees, because it's not like you will present all the degrees of the Makam in the given equally, let's say. So I again like to describe this, to make a parallel description, as with the food. So if you order pasta with tomato sauce, okay, you expect that the majority would be pasta, and then you will have also some tomato sauce on the top, and maybe some cheese, maybe some pepper. Okay, so if you order this, but I bring you tomato sauce with a bit of pasta and a lot of pepper and nothing cheese at all, then this is not pasta with tomato sauce. This is something else. Okay, so on the Makam again, you should pay attention and present and give a more emphasis on specific degrees of the Makam, on specific parts of the journey, because they are of greater importance compared to others, in order to describe efficiently the story. So imagine that in the book you have a prologue of 25 pages, then chapter 1 is 3 pages, then chapter 3 is like 50 pages. So there is an analogy. In a few words, you have to realize the analogy of each Makam, of the elements of the Makam, in order to efficiently describe it. Okay, so in the beginning, that was just to return to your initial question about the before and after. In the beginning, that felt to me like the possibilities of expressing myself were getting more narrow compared to the huge freedom I had beforehand. When I considered Makam as just scales, given intervals, you do whatever you want. And then as soon as you are within the context of the intervals, then whatever you do, you are in this Makam, so you are presenting efficiently the Makam, which was not true. So when you compress things, somehow you are forced, let's say, to take out all the unnecessary things. So you maintain and you keep, let's say, the essence, the things that are important. So compared to have a free improvisation on a Makam, now you have to present a story, but through your unique way of sharing stories.
Yes.
Okay, because again,
Mm.
I come back to a very early thing I mentioned about the performance of Western classical repertoire.
Mm.
Okay, we cannot say the same story. That's one thing. And even if we say the same story, let's say you have a given taksim on a score, all the notes are there, the dynamics are there, which would not be actually a taksim, but let's say you write the taksim. It's not spontaneous, but is in the context of a taksim. So if you take like 5 musicians to perform that thing with the same instrument, it wouldn't be the same. And that's
Yeah.
one of the beauty of taksim. So it's like we are sharing the same story, but adding a few minor elements that make it very interesting or not.
So the
So
storyteller is part of it.
exactly. And
Mm.
the sound quality of the storyteller is
Yes.
important. But the
Yeah.
most important is, as a storyteller, to know exactly the story and to realize what are the important parts of that story and share it in such a way that you respect all this given information in order to have a successful result as a storyteller. Okay, even pauses are of a great importance when you perform taxi. So also when you say a story, the moments you will do the pause create and maintain the attention of the audience.
Has an impact. Yes.
Yeah. So again, going to the food, if I serve pasta with some tomato sauce and some pepper and some cheese, maybe if I add a small element, just a pinch of cinnamon, it brings something. But I still maintain the character and the recipe of the food, you know. So there are ways of expressing. There are ways of being free to say the story, but you should respect the story itself before saying it and know the story before trying to say it. Okay. I mean that's
So
my yeah.
these are few things, very, very interesting, actually, tangenting points from the question. It really added value. But now we have examples of the way we understand the Makam before and after,
Mhm.
improvisation, storytelling. All of these came like Kudsi before and after, right?
Yeah, I mean because when you realize the richness of Makam music, somehow it's like beforehand I was a wild horse. Okay, I was a wild
Yeah.
horse in the sense that this openness and this great freedom on Makam music would take me to all possible directions,
Mm.
but it didn't have a context. It
Yes.
was really free. Okay, so
Mm.
exploring the possibilities and understanding, at least as much as I can understand at the moment,
Mm.
the of Makam music, melodic wise, the possibilities and the approach on the taksim and how you could improvise and how you can build up your improvisation. It's like a wild horse being trained on given circumstances, but also having the freedom of once in a while going for a free ride, you know? So
Yes, yes.
it's more controlled, let's say, but controlled not in a an unhealthy way. Okay, it doesn't limit
It's like
any
a game with
possibility.
rules, huh?
Exactly.
It's like
This,
like
the,
if you have a great game, it must have some rules. Otherwise, what is that game? Why do you give
exactly.
it a name?
What exactly what you said is actually can describe the Makam. It's a game with rules.
Yes.
Okay, and I not by accident choose the word game.
Mm.
Okay, in the end, again we express ourselves. It's a game we can play in so many different ways, filtered through our perception and through our emotional state of being
Yeah,
and our philosophy, but maintaining the respect to the rules.
exactly.
That's it.
And we can be as playful as we like with the
Exactly.
respect of the rules. Yeah,
Exactly.
wonderful. Wonderful.
Exactly.
So I have actually a few other questions.
Hmm.
Now, closing the topic of code arts.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for actually hitting the subject of the thesis and the academic part. But what else were you doing in code arts in those years? How many years in total?
It was two. It was not a lot,
Only
but
two.
it was
Two big
yeah,
years.
for me it was yeah, a very compressed time, let's say.
Yeah.
Um, I had the chance, like being into Codarts, which is one of the few conservatories which can offer, as I said, a bachelor degree or a master's degree on subjects that are not so supported, let's say, generally speaking. So, was giving me also the chance to meet with musicians, with great musicians that I couldn't have the chance to meet with. So we formed in the very beginning of these years in Codarts. We formed with three other fellow musicians, great ones, which I greatly admire for their musicality and ability, technical wise and melodical wise, and generally composing wise. We formed an ensemble called Lingua Franca Ensemble, and it was formed. We're four musicians. It was myself, Michalis Holevas, who was playing tarhu, Michalis Kouloumis, who was playing like the violin, and Ruben Rubik, who was playing many percussions. And together we were just. It was actually my first feeling that I'm doing something of great interest for me with fellow musicians. So
Yeah.
I I I was playing also with bands and maybe some duos or trios beforehand, but it was not in the context of okay, let's create something together that will last as much as possible. It was occasionally happening. So that with Lingua Franca Ensemble, it was the first moment, let's say, to really form a group that would share the same aesthetics on music and share like the same vision of doing something that we will try to make it last as much as possible. Uh, and I was influenced by the other fellow musicians also in how to build up my compositions, what would be the possibilities of having these instruments to play the given compositions, how I could support the ideas and the needs of the compositions of the others. And so it was a great lesson itself being part of an ensemble with musicians who I greatly admire. And we had the chance also to record an album. And yeah, I mean, I have so many memories. We had the chance to travel in several places of the world to perform our compositions. We participate also in the Qatar Oud Festival, and we went also to a festival in Uzbekistan. We travel as much as possible, given the circumstances, to present like the album and the works we were doing back then.
What's the title of the album so our audience can reach out to it?
Ephemera. It's the title of the album, and maybe it would be nice if we could have a look on one video that we had the chance to present back then in the on the national TV of the Netherlands. So maybe it would be nice to have a look on it.
Sure.
Together.
Sure, will do.
Great.
Yanis, after seeing this example, let's maybe touch into the idea of passion that that started with you from the beginning, and that was the essence of the whole playful learning and the quest and the learning and so on, compared to what we do otherwise.
Yeah. Uh, you know, passion, it's sometimes confused with willingness or with dreams,
Yes.
because I mean, often I can discuss with people and they would say like, my dream was to play an instrument, but I
Mm.
was never good, or I didn't believe that I could do it. So dreaming of something compared to being passionate about something is a completely different state. Okay. I strongly believe that when you have natural passion about something, and in that in this occasion, music,
Yeah.
is almost impossible to get away from it. Even if you have obstacles, like even if the family would not support your passion, even if you are uh, you don't have the financial support to do it in a proper way, or you don't have the sources of supporting this passion, again, you will find a way, either with the hard way or the more easy way, to satisfy this passion.
Yeah.
So thankfully, I didn't have. It's like a river, okay, that it starts floating and it starts going towards the sea. So maybe you will have some big rocks in the way. Maybe someone will try to stop this force of the river, but in the end, the river somehow reaches the sea. Okay, and
Yeah.
by reaching the sea, it doesn't mean that you accomplish uh, everything you can do. Reaching the sea is the beginning, is the realization of that being a river is not the important thing, but being swimming as a river inside
Yeah.
the sea, the endless sea, is like the beginning of the big journey, this essential journey. So
Wonderful.
we will always learn. Uh, each time I'm doing something and I feel like I have done something that would be for me memorable, I say that it's just a moment that I had the chance and the fortune and the blessing, you can call it whatever you want, to get a small taste of
Mm.
of the greatness of music.
Mm.
Okay, so I sincerely maintain this mentality uh, in order to continue the journey I have in the most let's say realistic way. Okay, music will be always greater than us, and music will always exist even centuries after we die, and as it did.
Yeah.
So we are not the important part. Music is the important part. We are just experiencing the fruits of music in several ways.
Yeah. Now, does the passion require a push, challenging ourselves, systemizing our efforts, or we follow our hearts? What does it look like for you?
Yeah, it's like talent itself or passion
Mm.
itself
Yes.
doesn't doesn't say anything because you didn't choose to have either the talent or the passion.
Mm.
I didn't choose to have these things. If I have a talent, okay, not to be misunderstood. Uh,
Yes.
of course, I realize that I have let's say a fast understanding on the practical parts of music. I'm quite uh, I get into musical instruments, especially stringed ones, like really easily. I can understand them. So this could be called a talent. Okay.
Mm.
Passion, again, it's something that I didn't choose.
Mm.
I have passion for this subject, which is music. In the beginning, it was like just as I was playing basketball, then I was playing a bit of music. It was just a game for me. But then you being involved and being exposed in music and musical instruments, then I realized that I have a passion. So if I would stop there and being satisfied just by my passion and by the joy that the game brings, the game of music
Mm.
brings, it could be an option,
Mm.
not necessarily a bad one.
Mm.
But the river was growing bigger and bigger and stronger and stronger. So I couldn't avoid the force of the river. So the best thing to do to use your passion or to form your passion is to get the knowledge, okay, and to put the effort, because talent and passion, as I said, comes just without our choice. But being devoted and being give your time and your energy and your soul and to do small sacrifices, daily sacrifices for this thing, which is your passion, which is you need to serve your passion,
Yeah.
then it's like your part. It's where you have a
Mhm.
choice.
Yeah.
And then if you really want to reach the highest level of yourself, not compared to other musicians, just
Mm.
yourself, then you must work for it. You must put the time and the effort to it. So then passion becomes part of your life.
Catalyst for.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not just a coincidence. It's a choice.
Mm.
Okay.
Mhm. Very
So,
interesting.
and the key to the journey is to be like to maintain the joyfulness of a young person as the very beginning. But the most important is to maintain the respect to the art of music and art in general, and finally to have the element of patience as a main characteristic, because I mean nowadays we are bombarded with all the things that all the people are doing. Like if you just have a 5 minute scroll into your Instagram account or Facebook or YouTube or whatever the case, there are so many people around the globe doing so many things. Okay, so it's easy to fall into this never-ending stressful trap of I need to do album each maybe each year or every 2 years. I have to do an album. I have to do this. I have to do that. I have to do the other, in order to be out there, you know.
Yeah.
It depends on what each person wants to achieve. Of course, there is not wrong or right,
Yes.
but for from my point of view, I'm serving just my passion and my emotional needs and my mental, let's say, needs through
Yes.
expressing through expressing them from music.
Interesting. Very
So
interesting.
this is
Mhm.
the need, you know. I mean, if what I do can positively influence or positively uh, connects emotionally to another person, even one, it's most welcome. But that's not the goal.
Yeah. Very
I,
interesting.
I mean, of
Yeah.
course, you need a plan, to be honest, especially
Mm.
nowadays. It's not enough just to record your music or just to perform at concerts. And I mean, if you want to uh, create a portfolio, let's say, of what you do, you also need to have a discipline of organizing things, like having a proper website, having some nice recordings, some nice videos, some nice photos, etc. Uh, like my website is now under construction. uh, Still, I was waiting for the moment that I have some interesting things to share on the website before it's built up. And also, I'm in the process of recording an album. I have enough number of compositions to record 1 or 2 albums. So I'm also in this process because I have something to share. You know, it's there. I want to take it out of my system, let's say, in order to make space for some new uh, experiences to arrive. Yeah,
Giannis, go ahead.
yeah, I don't know if I covered the
No, no, you
subject
did
of
actually.
passion.
No, no,
Yeah.
you did very well actually. Thank you very
Okay.
much, and it's
You're
useful.
you're welcome.
Quick questions.
Yep.
What is the effective learning experience for a musician from what we have heard or experienced? If we like give it like in a summarized form.
Yeah. Uh, I would say that in the beginning, let's say, or let's not take the beginning. Let's think of we are on a certain level and we want to furthermore expand like the possibilities. For me, one part is the technical one. Okay, and the technical one is like going to the gym. Okay, it's like you cannot get muscles or have a great fitness if you don't put the work and the effort of bringing the technical possibility on a certain level that you think it's really good for your capacity.
Yeah.
Okay, and the key for the technical let's say journey is to always challenge yourself.
Mm.
So as much as I know, even if you get like a book with some exercises on the oud, it's great to have an initial starting point. But for me, is like creating your own
Problems.
practices based on the problems you have.
Yes.
Okay,
Mm.
so the exercises is to solve
Mm.
certain problems or let's say difficulties you have as a musician. I mean, in classical music, the today's like the studies which each composer delivered to us was focusing on a specific technical challenge in the
Yes.
form of a composition to make it more
Yeah.
joyful, more interesting, more accepted
Mm.
from the musician. Okay,
Yeah.
so on the oud, for example, there are some books out there, I guess, which have exercises, but I think that's not enough. So you have to challenge yourself, even if you think like, okay, I can do a fast, let's say up and down movement on all the strings with this way. Okay, question number one, can you do it in another way? Can you do it with only downstrokes? If yes, how fast? If how fast, how clear, how with which on which level of clarity, and how about sound quality? Because sometimes we are focused on the speed and all the fast movement, etc., but we are losing the sound quality, or we are blurring a bit the clarity of the movement. So I remember I was doing like the tremolo on the oud, and like on the oud, more or less the spectrum of dynamics is a bit limited, but not because of the possibilities of the instrument, but because of the general approach.
Yes.
Okay, so usually you have a certain level of volume when you play, of dynamics. Then it goes slightly lower and slightly harder when you get on exciting parts or more dynamic parts. But I was remembering that I was trying to do the tremolo either like pianissimo, like very, very soft, but maintain the continuity of the sound, and then go to another level of dynamics, to another level. So I was trying to control and explore the different levels of dynamics on whatever I do. Even I do a fast scale, can I do it really, really, really gentle, but with a good sound and with a clarity? Can I do it really loud, but with a good sound and clarity?
Yeah.
So imagine how many possibilities and how many hours you need in order only to explore dynamics.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's natural. I mean, you learn the instrument, especially the oud, that no one says to you, play with that dynamic or that dynamic or that dynamic. I guess I got this idea from my experience by playing classical guitar repertoire. So there you have to play like really soft or maybe a bit louder at some points, etc. But you have to have the great sound as much as possible throughout your performance. So that goes on the practical level of the instrument. Then it comes on the actual musical part of the instrument,
Yeah.
because the instrument is just, as it is called, an instrument to perform music. Okay, so then it's the theory of music, the makam, and the practice through the repertoire. So the more repertoire you are exposed to, the more ideas you get, the more understanding you get on the makam system, which is our subject. And by having like these two elements, then it's time also to start the experiment with the taksim. Okay, because technically you have a great library of possibilities. Then through the repertoire and through the exposition to the repertoire, you and the recordings, you have also the musical, let's say, element. And then if you bring those two together, it's time to put on the table your emotion and your perception and your ideas, having the knowledge, let's say, the necessary at least level of knowledge in order to support these ideas and these emotions.
Interesting. What about the role of the master or the role of the teacher here in this learning process?
Yeah, definitely you will get influenced. I mean, if you match, let's say, with your teacher, your master, and you have the same aesthetics about music and the same appreciation about music and the same enthusiasm. If there are not any other reasons to create any obstacle between the relation of the two, then uh, unavoidably you will get influenced by your teacher and by the way he or she performs. And again, you cannot distinguish which element you get from who. Like, I was very, very, very fortunate to have the, some great people as my teachers who embraced all of them my passion and my willingness to learn. And I mean, I regularly bring on my mind their let's say the valuable moments of all the teachings of all of them, and having like still a relationship with Kudsi Erguner even after all these years that I finished the masters. We still have close communication. We still have the chance to perform together, which for me it's one of my dreams to be to reach reality. I mean, recently we had uh, for me a great moment again in Venice. We had a concert with the collaboration of Chini Foundation and Levendis Foundation, which is a Cypriot foundation based in London and Cyprus, and with the support of the Cypriot delegation of UNESCO. So we had this chance of performing Byzantine music and Sufi music on the same stage. We had like two choirs. One consisted of Cypriot Byzantine chanters, and the other one with Turkish singers performing Sufi music. Having Kudsi as the director of it, and also there were two other great musicians which I admire a lot. One is Evgenios Vulgaris, who is playing the yaeli tambur. He's a wonderful player and a great person. And the other one is a very close friend of mine called Reza Mirjalali. He's from Iran and he's playing the tar mainly. But for that concert, he played a tar, but with a bow. It was really interesting to have this instrument in the concert. And for me, I mean, it was challenging because I had to form a Byzantine choir from Cypriot chanters that it was the first time of coming together. So things from my understanding went really well. We were bonded together, like voice-wise, really easily and in a very short amount of time. And it was a great pleasure again to be like, let's say, the right hand of Kudsi for this project, to perform again in this place that we had performed in the past. And it's like a relationship, both musical wise and as human beings, that is enhanced each time with many memories. Each time another memory is added. One of these great memories is added recently, and soon enough it will be released also on YouTube. The Chini Foundation recorded the whole concert, like with great quality, like 6-7 cameras, great microphones. So we'll have a nice
Yes.
let's say,
Actually, looking forward to this.
yeah,
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 would
yeah.
like to see it when it is published. We will put it on Facebook and other channels, so
Great,
our
great.
audience also had a chance to
Yeah, great,
have a
great.
look at it. Yeah,
Yes, I would
I
love
would
to
like
share.
to ask you. I would like to ask you about. You mentioned somehow in the learning experience or successful or effective learning, some sort of practice. What is an effective practice program for a musician of this Makam music? Or
Okay,
like, what's the program like? What do we do there to, and what is the objective?
yeah. So for me, the best natural way to to start realizing what is Makam music is through the repertoire.
Mm.
Okay, we know the given, uh, let's say, famous or great, I would say, composers of Makam music. Either it is Ottoman
Mhm.
or it is Arabic or whatever is the case. So
Yeah.
the best source to understand Makam is through the repertoire,
Mhm.
through the recordings, the given recordings, and after you get involved and exposed to the repertoire, then it's a good step to move to uh, analyzing the taksims of great musicians, which who respect all these elements of Makam, and they
Mhm.
are not just doing, they are not just manifesting their possibilities on the instrument, you know. So there are examples we could hear too, and analyze and understand what is going on also in the context of Taksim. I mean, there are many also nowadays sources who or theses who analyze taksims, etc., either sonic wise or the intervals or the timing, all these things. And there are so many options on the internet that you could find either in the form of conservatory thesis or recordings or videos which analyze and you can see what is going on. So, I mean, this all goes into practice even if you don't have a master to learn directly from, because practically the teacher will not be like 24/7 with you, okay, all the time with you. So anyway, you need to do like your own process, uh, but
Exactly.
but still, I mean, even if you have many years of lessons, etc., it's as I said, you are just a river in the sea. So you are part of the sea now. So sea is endless, and thank God it's endless. I couldn't, I didn't, don't even want to imagine how it would feel like or how it would be if we all knew that there was a level that that's the end of the journey. You know, I mean, we are still
Yeah.
learning, and we will always learn, and that's the beauty of it. And it's a proof that we are so minor compared to what is out there and compared to the essence and the existence of music for our case,
Yeah.
because this goes
Mhm.
for any form of art. I mean, it's
Yeah. So the program, how does it look like? We focus again, we continue on technical part and Makam part, pieces, improvisation,
yeah. I mean, if you
and
want to have like,
problem solving, yeah?
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I cannot, you know what? Because I'm not this kind of person that I have a schedule. I don't have a
Mm.
schedule that 1 hour of this and 2 hours of this and then half an hour of break and this all these things. So it's a matter of uh, self inspection and
Mm.
just mirroring your possibilities and maybe the weaknesses you have, which definitely are there, in order to make them better, because that's the ultimate goal, to become a better version of ourselves. Okay.
As a river.
Exactly,
And we
exactly.
have to be alert in this case, Giannis, right? We have to be always alert, because if we go in the natural way, as you describe it, and the passion is there, so we have to be alert to put the effort, to sacrifice sometimes
Yes,
time and
yes,
priorities, and make sure that we are in a better shape all the time.
yes, yes. You know, I
Mm.
mean, generally, people in society see the result and have a perception and an opinion about the result, but they are missing the whole process of it. So
Exactly.
it's like what I was saying before. Like, I meet people and they say to me, "Yeah, you know, I was dreaming of playing like music or playing this instrument." So that's the result.
Mm.
But no one said to me like I was dreaming of putting effort on it, or putting all my time and my soul and my energy, and missing some other things. Okay, so when you devote yourself to something, eventually you will lose something else because you don't have the time to do something else. Okay, but people have, like, we have this tendency of just saying, oh, look how good is this musician, or look how lucky is this musician, or look how rich is this guy, or how fortunate is this guy. So we don't know the background. And
Yeah, this reminds me of two quotes actually. One quote by Sarasate,
uh-huh.
or a story is told about him, where someone came to him and say, "Wow, you are a genius." He said, "I spent 10 hours practicing every day for many years, and now you tell me I am a genius."
Yes.
This is one
Exactly.
thing. And the
Yeah.
other story is, it always happens every day. When someone came after a concert to Hivitz and said, "What kind of violin is this? It's so beautiful."
Yeah.
And I think he gave it to him or her and say, "Go play."
Yeah, 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 yeah. I got this comment once, like I was
Yeah.
sound checking, and there was this guy came and he said to me like, "Your the sound of your wood became better," which is like, yeah,
Yeah.
of course, wood is like itself throughout the many hours of resonating, etc., and the
Yeah.
humidity of the instrument. Of course, it develops itself. Okay, but
Yeah.
it's just an instrument. It's just an
Yes.
instrument.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I remember that the first instruments I had on my hands were really, really bad instruments.
Mm.
But I was trying to make something out of them. And if I had to choose to start all over again from the beginning, I would choose in the beginning to have very bad instruments.
It's part
Sincerely.
of the training. Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. It's part of the training. So imagine trying to to put your body on a very great level of fitness without having without being able to be in a great gym with all the equipment and all the things.
Yes.
It brings other it wakes up other hidden, let's say,
Yeah.
parts of yourself, and through,
Competencies. Yeah.
yes, exactly, and through the difficulties, especially like in the given circumstance with the instruments. Like if you don't have an instrument that can really play, but you are trying to make it play, it's an extra difficulty. But when you will eventually have in your hands a good instrument, then things, let's say, would be much easier, or you will appreciate more the good instrument.
Yes. Yanis, I'm really enjoying the time.
Me as well.
We crossed 3 hours, and people now can make jokes on us and
If
still
they,
enjoy the interview.
yeah, if they're still awake, you know.
No, they are. They are. Our audience really like
Okay,
our discussions.
hopefully.
I heard some say why they are long. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
they are not for you, or you can divide them like the good books into
Yeah,
chapters and enjoy
yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah.
How many instruments you play currently?
Uh, I will be very strict about it. Okay, I will not be saying about instruments that I don't really, really, really play. But besides the oud and the guitar and singing, uh,
Yeah.
I still maintain an involvement, let's say, with instruments of the rebetiko
Mm.
genre, like the bouzouki and the baglama and all these things. But I'm very interested in trying all the time instruments like with bow or wind instruments. Uh, so yeah,
Yeah,
I mean
so
generally,
experimentation is ongoing.
yeah, yeah, even percussions. But I cannot say I'm playing like something like I haven't devoted myself so much to say that I'm playing it. But I'm always I
Yeah,
have many instruments, so according
yeah,
to the needs, because I also compose like for theater or for some movies, etc. So I need to add elements of other instruments. So
yeah,
I have a motivation as well besides the curiosity and
yes.
the passion. And I would like to add on this that I had the chance to make a publication recently about the musical instruments of the Eastern Mediterranean, and
Mm.
it's a book published both in Greek and English in the same publication.
Yeah,
So it's around I deal with around 30 instruments, and I share the history behind each instrument and some technical characteristics of each one of them and how they are
yeah.
built with some nice photos. And I
Mm.
made also like a special recording of each
Mm.
instrument, so you can scan with a QR code and listen to the recording of the instrument. So it's like
Very
a,
nice.
a small encyclopedia, let's say, about this instrument, like real easy to get information about the instrument that you wish
Is
for.
it accessible? Can
Uh,
we reach out to it?
it will most probably now at the moment is only published and it's only offered on a hard book cover,
Uh-huh.
hardcover book. So you have to order it uh,
Okay.
through a specific website, but we are in the process of maybe releasing it also in a digital version so that it can
Wonderful.
have access to more
So we
people.
can see it in your pages or like
Yeah,
social media
yeah,
channels
yeah, yeah, yeah.
soon.
I'm not
Wonderful.
this I'm not this kind of person who constantly posts on
Please
Facebook.
do. Please do.
I just post once about each maybe two times and that's it. So I'm not
No, no.
repeating
After this
myself.
interview, we ask you to do so.
Okay. I will do my best to go against my nature, but
For this
okay.
part.
Okay.
Yanis, we cannot avoid asking you a question about your perception about contemporary music, contemporary model music,
Yes.
or Makam music, whatever you call it.
Yeah. Uh, to be honest, compared to the time I was beginning to be involved, to get involved with Makam music or these instruments which serve or are connected, let's say, to Makam music, uh, there weren't there wasn't much interest generally, especially in the young people. I mean, I remember I couldn't even find an instrument in music shops here. They were just selling the typical ones. But nowadays, I mean, I can look back and I can see the development and the evolvement of interest, especially from the younger people and also there are more publications and more research works out there to which it's an evidence of the importance and the great interest which is growing still about Makam music.
Yeah.
And there are also examples of young musicians or musicians of my generation, or the generally speaking, that are composing new material based on Makam. Even previous generations of mine who are now older than me, they are still creating compositions based on Makam music. There is a small thing to distinguish, like there are people who are composing Makam music based on the classical, let's say, forms, okay? But also there is a part of composers who are trying, let's say, to use Makam music outside of the context of classical forms. Okay, so you can have a semi, let's say, or a peshref composed in 2025 on a given Makam, which, as much as I guess you are trying to not imitate the old style, but to respect, let's say, to step on the previous compositions of peshrefs or semis, for example, on a given Makam, it's almost impossible not to add a contemporary, let's say, element in the compositions. Okay, so that's one. On one hand, that is what's happening, and on the other hand, you have a bit more open-minded, let's say, compositions using as a base material the Makam music, which is it's another approach. But if you maintain like the respect, let's say, or you have the clear understanding on how to bring Makam into a more contemporary, let's say, context without losing the essence of it, it's very interesting for my understanding. I mean, personally, the majority of the compositions I have are in the context of having Makam in a more contemporary approach. Compared to, I have some compositions also like a Longa or some other, like on Rast or Segya or Semi, or more classical, let's say, compositional forms. But yeah, I see great interest in general speaking.
It's clear.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it's clear and widespread now. But we have also the issue of fusion and
yeah,
being superficial. This is some
yeah,
issue that we really
yeah,
encounter.
yeah,
Fortunately, we have great composers
yeah,
in
yeah,
one side. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
You know,
So how that can be controlled?
I think there is no need of controlling anything. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's out there, so you each one of us can choose what to listen and what not to listen. Like, I would ask you this, like, would you go to eat somewhere, like, let's say, Italian food, which I really like, uh, in a place that seems that they're not really aware of what is Italian cuisine, you
Yeah.
know? So maybe the chef is very good in Asian food, and it could be like a great place if they would serve Asian food. But if they're trying to do something they're not exposed to on a certain level that could allow them to serve something to the audience, then it's a pity, and it doesn't make any doesn't support any actual emotional need. It's more artificial. So fusion, in the sense that I bring like these two elements together and try to create something that has never happened before, or I don't know what's the ultimate goal of fusion
Yes.
in some occasions.
Yes.
It actually doesn't serve any emotion. I guess maybe
Hmm.
I'm wrong, but in order to cook something, you need to know your elements. If you don't know your materials, then how you can cook? Okay, it will be an experiment,
Yes.
and some experiments work by accident,
Exactly.
but they don't
Yes.
have consistency. Then they don't have uh, life throughout the the years. I mean, if you just create
Yeah.
something, a fusion composition that maybe it's around the globe and everyone gets crazy about it, what's next? It's just an experiment that worked, you know? It's not
No
enough.
further implications of
Yeah,
this
it's
concept.
just like winning the lottery. Doesn't mean you are yeah, it doesn't mean you are very wise or genius or mathematical mind in order to be able to win the lottery. You just won the lottery. That's it.
Yes. Yes. Interesting.
Yeah.
Giannis, you teach, right?
Occasionally, yes, occasionally. I don't teach on a regular basis, but occasionally I do so if there is an interest from specific people that would like to
Mhm.
to let's say share our same passion about music, then yeah, I do so.
Is that in person or online or a mix or
It's a
this and
mix.
that?
Yeah, it depends. I
Yeah.
mean, I had students like from even Japan
Mm.
and people here in now I'm based in Cyprus, so there are also some people here who are interested in this music and this instrument. Yeah.
Mhm. And what do you teach? The same repertoire or the mix of these repertoires?
I adapt, I would say the thing that would make me agree in putting myself into the procedure of teaching is
Mm.
if there is a true, let's say, passion, no matter
Okay.
the level. But if I see someone that is really interested, even
Mm.
trying to
Mm.
explore, maybe it's not eventually what they thought it would be, or what they maybe switch instrument or whatever. But if I see someone that really is really interested in learning something that I can teach, then
Yeah.
I'm very willing to participate, to be part of their journey.
Mm.
Yeah,
Interesting. Tell us like about your projects, activities.
yeah. So
Mm.
uh, I participate in several concerts once in a while. As I said before, I'm trying to organize the recording of some compositions of mine, and to record some videos based on these compositions in order to support like the effort of creating this album. And I'm also like here in Cyprus involved into composing for theatrical plays. Recently, I had the chance to compose for the National Theatre here, and which was a great experience for me. And I also collaborate with some directors for some short movies, and I
Mm.
had the chance a few years ago to have a feature film of lasting 2 hours, so to have possibility to compose for it, and there is another one coming up in order to start composing for. So
lot of
parallel to all of these
activities.
things, activities, I'm also into a constant mindset of researching, mostly focusing on the material I described before, on the manuscripts, which hopefully I will have the time and courage to put it into the context of a PhD in order to continue the work that
Yeah,
has been started during the masters, and yeah, eventually we're going to have the
for
chance to
sure.
discuss after a few years about it.
Sure, sure. We have a lot of things to discuss actually, even now, and looking forward to see that thing happen. So
Yeah,
more things to be really unleashed, I'm
yeah,
sure.
hopefully.
Yeah. So, Yanis, how can you be reached out to and contacted for
Yeah,
collaboration,
yep,
projects,
yeah.
teaching, whatever? Yeah.
Yeah, as I said, like my website is under construction. Like more or less in 1 month, it will be ready to be published.
Hmm.
At the moment, like through email or social media, I correspond uh, to any call that has a meaning.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's the ways that someone
Wonderful.
can reach me. Yeah,
Wonderful. We have really spent a great time with you. Thanks for
likewise.
sharing with us the story, the experience, your encounters, viewpoints. I would like that you maybe conclude, but before that, maybe we share one more piece with our audience.
Yeah, of course.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, we could share a video uh, with a performance that I really like. I think it would be ideal for concluding. Yeah.
Wonderful. And what would you say for our audience?
Firstly, I would say to you that I was really happy to receive your invitation, and was much looking forward to have the session, the actual one. And it's what you do. It's great because you give the chance to all the people that are interested in Makam music to see and to get inspired. Uh, I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about the previous interviews you had. I know you had some great names, which I greatly admire in your previous podcast sessions. So it's a great joy for me to have the chance to have this discussion. And to the audience, I mean, if they are still awake after 3 hours of listening to this discussion,
Please
it's
write in the comments if you are awake.
yeah, yeah. I admire them on one hand about this, but also
Yeah.
I am happy to know that there are many people out there who share the same interest, love, appreciation, and respect to Makam music initially, and generally music or any other form of art.
Yes. Yanis, one more time, thank you very much. It was a great time, and thanks, and Nadi viewers.
Likewise.
We'll meet again.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Fadil. Thank
Bye
you.
for now.
Bye bye.